The Land Rover Defender is one of, if not the most iconic vehicles in production currently. It is an amazing vehicle, and its heritage, its design stems way back to the original Series 1, the prototypes. It's not the same model, but when you look at it, you can really see that kind of history and how the vehicle has evolved over the years to become the Land Rover Defender it is now. And over those decades, it's built up an amazing reputation as the vehicle for travel, for exploration, for adventure. And it's way more. A Land Rover is always way more than the sum of its parts. It's more than the alloy and metal and rubber that makes a Land Rover on paper. It is a concept and something that people aspire to. So it's a much loved vehicle. And because of that, the replacement Defender has so much speculation, so many rumours, so much misinformation, Photoshop images thrown around on car news websites and magazines, and we just want to clear those up. We've done a post on funrover.com, you can check it out here. It's a good roundup of the kind of state we're in at the minute, what we should be expecting, and a roundup of all the rumours that we have been hearing. But this video is really a continuation of that. We're going to talk about what the new Defender will be, what we actually know factually from Land Rover or things that we can verify ourselves, and just what isn't true, what photoshopped images, for example, are fakes, and we'll tell you why they are. So what do we know factually? Well, the Land Rover Defender is being replaced. We know that for a definite. We saw that with the announcement that this year, the 2015 year, will be the last current UK manufacturing year of the Defender. So that's it. After this year, it's finished here. It may well go outside of the UK, which we'll talk about in a second, but 2015 is the final year. So it means the last Land Rovers are rolling off the production line with 2.2 Puma engines, 6-speed box, sort of the configuration we've been seeing for the last few years. And yeah, that's it. That's the last year. There's a few available still at dealers. There's the 3 special editions, the Heritage, Adventure and Autobiography. May well be another final special edition from Special Vehicles Operations, their division there at Land Rover. But that's all we know for now. That's it. It's the final year. Something else we know, thanks to an engineer who posted on his LinkedIn profile what he was currently working on at Land Rover. Well, he's working on a replacement Defender. It has the code name L663, and that is the Defender replacement. Now, something else that's interesting on this profile, it's listed as the 2017 model year vehicle. So if that's correct, then that makes sense, because 2015 will be the last year we'll see vehicles produced up until September, I think people have said. Then sometime in 2016, we'll see the launch of the new vehicle at one of the big auto shows, Paris, New York, Geneva, and that will be leading up to the release in 2017 when customers can actually start getting their vehicles delivered. Now, this engineer, he very nicely put on his LinkedIn profile exactly what he was working on the Defender replacement. It's RMD V2 input. So a quick Google suggested that could be a resource management division, something like that, something to do with data. Not quite sure, but that is a fact. That is what he's put on his resume, and that's something that, you know, we can take as pretty good factual information. 2017, because there's been a lot of speculation about the launch date of the replacement. Another fact, Land Rover are investigating the possibility of manufacturing this overseas. This is a statement taken directly from Land Rover's website itself. It says Land Rover is also investigating the possibility of maintaining production of the current Defender at an overseas production facility after the close of UK manufacturing. Any continuation would see low volume production maintained for sale outside the EU. So Land Rover considering, as we've read there, making knockdown kits possibly, or actual production of the vehicle elsewhere around the world, but for sale, crucially, outside of the EU, where a lot of the kind of laws and guidelines that have stopped the Defender from being able to be sold are in effect. So that's what we do know. Those are the actual hard facts. You can check out the post on our website for the review of what is true, what isn't, a roundup of where we are with the Defender replacement. But now we're going to talk about possibilities and likelihoods, and you know, these aren't just sticking our hands up into the wind. This is deduced facts, basically. So When we're looking at what it will actually physically look like, if we take a look at any car manufacturer now these days, VW for example, you have the Lupo, or the Up, whatever it's called, Polo, Golf, Passat, Passat CC, Amarok, and so on and so on. They have a wide range of vehicles, and you'll notice that they all look very similar, and that's to do with branding. It's the way that people perceive a vehicle manufacturer. So every car manufacturer nowadays works towards having this kind of unified brand across all their vehicles, so that you can say, oh look, that's a VW, that's a VW. Now Land Rover themselves, they do this. The Range Rover line of cars, the Evoque, the Sport, the Autobiography, the Vogue, they're all very similar. They're recognisably Land Rover. And that's all to do with branding. Now we've seen this extended to the Land Rover Discovery. You can still say, oh look, that is the same vehicle that's part of a family of vehicles. I recognise that, and this is a subconscious thing that we're doing. So the new Defender will very likely have that kind of modern, sporty front-end look with the LED headlights. That can be taken as an almost given, because that is Land Rover design style, and it will take all of its cues from the other vehicles in the lineup. Now in terms of features, well, Land Rover announced the Ingenium engines, the 4-cylinder or turbocharged engines that they're producing. These are super efficient engines, they're super lightweight, they're really efficient in terms of fuel use. So it's very likely that when that starts being adopted across the Land Rover range, that will also find its way into the Defender Mark II. An 8 or 9 speed auto transmission, that's looking quite likely the way that Land Rover vehicles are going. Interchangeable wheels was something that I think Autocar mentioned, and they were talking that the actual wheel nut pattern would be interchangeable with Toyota vehicles, Land Cruiser. You might be able to stick Hilux steel wheels on there, which would be great if you're in the middle of nowhere. A little bit of a worrying word we've heard a lot of is premium. There's been a lot of discussion and chatter about the new vehicle being a premium vehicle, or at least being offered in a premium version. From what we've seen, it's likely that it'll be based on the T5 chassis platform. If you're not familiar with that, it was used in the Discovery, and it's basically a monocoque shell. Monocoque is basically the chassis and body are combined into one sort of unibody design. It's a semi-monocoque body placed onto a steel ladder chassis, a sort of old school Defender style ladder rail chassis. Combining those two, it's used in the Discovery Sport, Discovery 3 and 4, they had that kind of arrangement, and it allows for a lighter body which is precision made, got nice panel gaps, they can get a nice consistency throughout their production, but also they've got this rugged steel ladder chassis, and it helps with handling. They can make a big heavy vehicle handle a lot better. So Land Rover will very likely use that platform, if not the T5 platform, something very similar. So that would actually allow, if they wanted to easily make, or more easily make, pickup models, longer wheelbases, because they've actually made construction more able to handle that. It's going to be available for sale in the USA, we know that, because Land Rover have said they wanted to do that, they've been looking into that. There's a huge demand in the USA. When we look at the Land Rover enthusiasts there, they're willing to pay tens of thousands, $80,000 for Land Rover Defenders that are over 25 years old and have been completely rebuilt. But there's a huge demand there, so Land Rover are going to want to take this new vehicle to the USA. Their vehicles sell really well. Range Rover, Evoque, the Sports sell fantastically well there, so they'll want that vehicle to be available for sale there. We've also heard from Land Rover spokespeople recently that they want that vehicle to have a really widespread appeal. They want it to be capable, extremely capable, I believe they used the words, and reminiscent of the old Defender, which is a nice touch really, that they're going to bring in that design style, hopefully, so that it's recognisably a Land Rover Defender still, even though it's been updated for safety, emissions and all that rubbish. Here's something interesting we found out. Land Rover dealers apparently began accepting advanced deposits for this Land Rover Defender replacement. So there are people reporting on forums that they've been able to pay between £500 and £1,000, so like $1,000-ish, $2,000 on something called the Concept Advance Scheme Hedge Fund, and it's a refundable amount, and you make your check out to this hedge fund, and basically it's for people who are wanting to jump to the front of the list when it comes to the launch of the new vehicle. Autocar have also reported a while ago that the DC100, whilst it wouldn't be the replacement Defender, we know that from things that Jerry McGovern has said, the Land Rover design directing guy. Well, we know that it's not going to be the Defender replacement, but they're not writing it off as, a wasted venture. They may consider actually producing that, perhaps as a basic introduction to the Land Rover range, an entry-level vehicle. Brand director John Edwards, he stated that the vehicle would be retailed for around £20,000, so that's extremely cheap if that's to be believed. Another sort of confirmation really of where Land Rover are going. At the LA Motor Show, I believe it was 2014 or 2013 perhaps, a marketing presentation was given with this slide. Now it's showing the 3-column lineup of the Land Rover and Range Rover range, and the slide shows from left a Range Rover, and we actually now know that to be the Discovery Vision in the middle, and then a third vehicle. Now if you look at that third vehicle, it's tagged as dual purpose, and it looks very much like a super rugged extreme DC100 sort of looking vehicle. So that is a Land Rover insight into where they're going. You can see that slide there. And another slideshow actually shows a crew cab and pickup variant. So presumably this is the Defender lineup that they're talking about. Land Rover also did the Land Rover in the Sand video. I don't know if you saw that on Red Dwarf Bay. They basically created a huge sand drawing of a Land Rover, and this could possibly be a cryptic clue. The original series, or as centre steer prototype as it was known, was drawn in the sand by the Wilkes brothers. It was actually physically drawn in the sand. So this new vehicle, is it a kind of little hint the way Land Rover's going? The outline, the silhouette of it actually matches up with the vehicle we saw on the slides, and it doesn't appear to be a DC100. It doesn't appear to be an old Land Rover Defender. It could well be Land Rover giving us just the tiniest hint of the new Defender, which would be really interesting if that's the case. Now, we're going to look at the kind of photoshopped images, the artist impressions that aren't real. I'm going to show you why. And I actually work as an image analyst. I basically review images and design, and I've used Photoshop more than 10 years, probably 15 years. So I know what I'm talking about here, and I wanted to debunk some of the myths that we're seeing, some of the mistruths. This first image, this is taken from automobilemag.com. First off, that's a huge hint. Obviously, it's an artist's impression, and it's been created by that magazine, that blog. Why? Well, magazines and blogs, they need to sell adverts, so they need to generate interest and traffic and basically people clicking onto their site. So what better way to do it than create something like this that it kind of does look genuine, but upon closer look, the front end of the vehicle, all the perspectives are off, the registration plate's super wonky, the grille doesn't quite look right, and the reflection, the colouring of it is just not quite right. So that is a huge hint that it's not a real image. It could be somewhat similar to what Land Rover are actually working on, but the registration plate VX61BRF, that is actually a Land Rover Defender photo mule. Now, I actually came across this on the internet the other day. I was searching for something else to do with FunRover, writing a post. Came across a vehicle, I was like, hey, that registration plate, I recognise that. And sure enough, that registration plate is actually a Land Rover owned press vehicle or something like that. I checked it up. So it's been basically ripped off the vehicle, they've changed perspective, and it's a complete fake. So other than it being an interesting exploration in what the Defender could look like, it's pretty useless really. This next one's an interesting one because it's created actually by a senior automotive designer in Coventry, Jaguar. He's called Design Smith, doesn't give any more information about himself. It was reported on Piston Heads, I think I first saw it, but this is often shown on Land Rover groups and things, people saying, hey, look, it's the new Defender, it's a concept for the new Defender. It is, but it's not by anybody to do with Land Rover, presumably. So it's just, again, another person having a crack at this, because redesigning the Defender, what an amazing job that would be. I don't think I'd personally want it, but if you're a car designer, it must be an awesome thing, just for your own enjoyment, really. Have a knock at making your own Defender concept. So again, not an actual Land Rover image anyway, but really well made. The DC100, that pops up all the time. I think people missed the bit where Land Rover said, you know, the new Defender isn't going to look like this, and also we're not really going any further with this, although they have said that maybe they would do, as we've mentioned. So it's just basically well, Land Rover say it was an exploration into how the Defender could change, and I think because of the huge reaction they got, most of it negative, despite the fact they say it was positive, it was just canned, basically. So again, if you see people going, hey, look, it's the new Defender, they've clearly missed some of the news from about 2 years ago, where it was explained that it wouldn't be the Defender replacement. This image, I see this image all the time, and it kind of looks genuine if you squint and turn your head around, but actually, looking closer, it's a Ford Bronco concept car from the 2004 New York Auto Show. So if we zoom in, you can see the Land Rover badge looks funny, the headlights are just sort of smacked on there, and it's not a Defender replacement. I don't even think it got made into the Bronco. It's just a concept vehicle, a prototype that Ford knocked up, and then someone went, hey, that looks kind of cool. It's nice and square and chunky looking. Let's Photoshop it and make it look like a new Defender. So again, not a Land Rover Defender in any way. This next one, I really like this one. It's actually probably my favourite concept I've seen so far. It's the DC100 sort of reminiscent auto car concept. So remember, car blog, car magazine, need views, need interest, need traffic, create something like this. Really good way of doing it. It's clearly based on a DC100, but it's a lot meaner, a lot more aggressive. It's a lot kind of sharper, and the design, I think, just looks a lot better. They've got rid of the sort of roundedness of the DC100. They're giving it a much chunkier, much more Defender style, and I think it looks pretty good. But again, it's an artist's impression, just a digital vector illustration. We've messed around with this ourselves. You can see that on our post here. It's not by any means a Land Rover endorsed image. It's probably never even been seen by someone at Land Rover, but it's an interesting concept, and I for one certainly hope that the new Defender does look something like that, because that looks really, really solid as a vehicle. So if you find this all too confusing, well, don't worry, because to be honest, so do we. We're massive Land Rover fans, and spending hours and hours and hours researching things just makes your mind boggle on the things Land Rover have said and people have said, and it all gets confused. So if you're finding yourself still a bit confused, head over to FunRover.com. We've got a number of posts about what the Land Rover Defender replacement will be like, the kind of news and statements we've had from Land Rover, myth busting these photoshopped images that you see knocking around, and that should help you get a little bit more of a clearer view of the Defender 2, the Land Rover Defender, the new one, whatever you want to call it. If you enjoyed this episode, then head on over to our website, funrover.com, for plenty more where that came from, or follow us on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. We are at FunRover, and subscribe to us on YouTube, because we've got a lot of exciting videos coming up soon showing you how to do jobs that, let's face it, every Land Rover Defender owner needs to do. I'm not going to go into any more information than that, and a lot of exciting videos to come this year. So head on over to those aforementioned websites, and we'll see you in our next video. And remember, where we're going, we don't need roads.